Hey everyone! You've probably heard the term carbon footprint thrown around a lot, right? But what if it's more than just some buzzword? What if it's actually a number, a personal number, that tells the story of your impact on the planet? Well, today we're going to dig in and find out exactly what that number is all about and what it really means for you.
I mean, just think about that for a second. What if you could actually see in real numbers how your day-to-day life connects to climate change? Not in some big, abstract, global way, but your life, your choices. That is the whole idea behind understanding your carbon footprint, and we're going to unpack it right now.
All right, so to really wrap our heads around this, we need to start with the big picture. What even is a carbon footprint, and how did this one idea become the go-to yardstick for our environmental impact?
At its absolute core, a carbon footprint is just a measurement. That's it. It's the grand total of all the greenhouse gases that get produced because of the things we do. From the power we use in our homes, to the car we drive, to the food that ends up on our plate.
Think of it like this. It takes this huge, incredibly complex issue of climate change and boils it down to a single number that we can actually work with. So when you hear scientists talking about tons of CO2 equivalent, all they're doing is bundling up all those different greenhouse gases into one standard unit. It just makes it possible for us to measure and compare our impact.
And this is where it gets really eye-opening, because context is everything. The average for the entire world is about 4 tons per person. But just look at this. The average in the US shoots all the way up to 16 tons, while in India, it's down around 2. This one chart tells us something huge. Where you live and how you live can change your personal impact by a factor of 8. Wow.
So how do we get from those big, countrywide averages down to our own personal number? Well, that's where the carbon footprint calculator comes in. Let's pop the hood and see how this thing actually works.
So what exactly are these calculators measuring? Well, they usually break our lives down into a few main areas. As you can see, transportation often eats up the biggest slice of the pie. But our home energy use and, just the stuff we buy are right up there too. And food? That 20% might seem small, but we're going to see in just a minute how significant that piece really is.
The process itself, it's actually way simpler than you might think. You just answer a bunch of questions about your habits. Things like how often you drive, what your diet is like, how much you fly. Then the tool does all the complicated math in the background, and boom, it gives you your score. It's really designed to be pretty straightforward.
Okay, so now we know how it's calculated. Let's get personal. This is where those abstract categories start to connect directly to the choices we're all making every single day.
This quote from the explorer Robert Swan it really sets the stage perfectly, doesn't it? It's such a powerful reminder that even though the problem feels global, the solutions often start right here with our own awareness and our own actions.
Let's start with something a lot of us do every day, the commute. The difference here is pretty stark. Driving to work by yourself in a gas-powered car leaves a pretty heavy trail of emissions. But switching to shared transport, like a train or a bus, lightens that load a lot. It's that classic trade-off between what's convenient and what the impact is.
And hey, what about what's for lunch? The impact of a diet that's heavy in red meat is way, way higher than a plant-based diet. And that's because of things like how much land is needed and the methane that livestock produce. It's a really striking example of how the choices we make in our kitchen translate directly to our global footprint.
Okay, so you've used a calculator, you get where the numbers are coming from. Now we're at the most important part of this whole thing, moving from just knowing your number to deciding what you're going to do about it.
So let's just imagine this is your result. 9.5 tons. It's not a grade, it's not a judgment, it's just a piece of data. It's your starting line. This is it. This is the key question. The real value of knowing your carbon footprint isn't in the number itself. It's in the conversation that it starts with yourself about what comes next.
And the good news is the path forward is made of small, intentional steps, not giant, impossible leaps. It's about being a little more mindful of the energy we use at home. It's about maybe opting for public transport or carpooling a couple more times a week. It's about trying to cut down on food waste or choosing more sustainable products when we can. And for those impacts we can't easily change, like a flight we have to take, there are even ways to offset them.
So, here's the most important thing to take away from all this. Perfection is not the goal here. A footprint of 0 is pretty much impossible in the world we live in. The real aim is just mindful progress, being aware of our impact and making conscious choices to lower it where and when we can. So in the end, your carbon footprint is just a number at one moment in time. The real question, the one that matters, is what story will that number tell over time? Is it going to be a story of awareness, a story of progress, the story of conscious change? Well, that's up to you.